Okay.
Where is it saying we've met before? But I mean, that's basically still.
She asked me about
No, it's over 800.
Sun very I was like 14 and some change.
Yes.
16 and some change.
That's all right. No.
We just refilled it in the last one.
I keep giving them out.
Oh, wait, you're right, it does. It's
I
not-
had a smile on my face the whole
But
time.
it's a lot, it's this, it's a lot,
but they fully what she said.
right?
Have you gone before the ordinance for buildings? Buildings.
Good.
You only spend 25%, there's
No, well, there's a section that deals with lots.
Yes. Actually, I'm just checking one. Sorry about that.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting for March 18th. To start the meeting, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. Please be aware the meeting is being live streamed on our YouTube channel and that the meeting may also be audio or video recorded by persons present in the room. Next on the agenda is item number 3, which is the opportunity for public comment. So if there's anybody here tonight who has a comment or a question that is about something that is not on the agenda, now's the opportunity to raise it. Yes, Doug.
Good evening, Doug White, West Goshen, Caswell. I'd like to discuss 3 topics. I'll try to make it quick, but there's three topics I'd like to discuss. The first one is another word of thanks to the Board of Supervisors for the courtyard naming, and also to Robin Stonnebeck. I really appreciate that, and I'll be working with Park and Rec to have a date for the dedication. And also, the second topic is, thank you to the staff for printing out the materials for the planning. It's really great that you did this. Very helpful. It's the comp plan and our zoning and saldo ordinance. Really appreciate that. And also, several of the planning commission members went to the course. Thank you for sponsoring the course from PMPEI, Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Education Institute. It's a great course, and we learned some things. I'd like to just discuss a few things we learned. That everyone should have a copy of our comp plan from all of the advisory boards, Sustainable and the Historical Commission. Everybody should have a copy of that. The printed is good because there's a lot of maps in there. It's nice to see. And we should really be referencing, and I'm at fault for this too. I'm just as guilty as anybody, but we should be really referencing that comp plan, this comp plan for every land development, and make sure we follow that comp plan. And if there's something we don't like in the comp plan, we can always talk about it, review it, and amend it. We should really be doing that. A couple other things here. The Planning Commission needs bylaws. We don't currently have bylaws, so we should have written bylaws. And the Planning Commission really needs to submit an annual report by March 1st of every year to the Board of Supervisors, just outlining what we have done for the past year and what looking ahead. And that all comes from the Municipal Planning Code, MPC, Pennsylvania. And another thing they discussed was to always have, and Brian, like your input on this too, have a stenographer at every Planning Commission meeting where we have a land development initial submission and recommendation. A stenographer. Now we take notes and we record it, but they recommend a stenographer. And last comment on this, just a friendly reminder, the supervisors, the role of the liaison is to be an impartial observer, just an impartial observer at our advisory meetings, and that was discussed. Okay. And the last thing I'd like to just discuss is just to recognize our Jewish community. Again, we had the holiday of Purim on Thursday night into Friday, and Purim really means a lot these past 2 years. And if you know the history of Purim, it has to do with the Jewish people suffering in the ancient land of Persia, which is present-day Iran, and how we were saved by Queen Esther from annihilation. So that's Purim. And I was wondering if the Board of Supervisors attends events at Kesher Israel Synagogue as like a representative, maybe a dignitary. I would encourage they do that. Sometimes we would go to, with my dad, to the interfaith service they would hold around Thanksgiving. Sometimes it was held at Kesher Israel. And I can't forget, let's not forget 10-7. I'm going to hold up my flag. We can't forget 10-7, the Bebas family, and everyone who perished. And thank goodness we can fight back and fend for ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug, for your comments. Is there anyone else tonight who wants to raise a question or a comment? Very good, then we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is possible approval for after-hours use of the community park for a Steps of Light event. Chris, would you mind introducing our guest this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So before the board this evening is a request from a Child's Light for after-hours use of West Goshen Community Park for their Steps of Light event on May 10th, 2025. The executive director and founder of this organization, Leslie Holt, is here this evening to discuss their organization. And I also provided the information that was submitted to the Township's Park and Recreation Director, Ken Lear. So Child's Light is a nonprofit organization based out of Downingtown that services all of Chester County that is dedicated to providing mental health support to children and adolescents ages 2 to 18 who have experienced severe trauma. I hope I got that summary correct. The event before the board is their Steps of Light event, which seeks to raise awareness to childhood trauma. And what they would do is illuminate the park with LED tea lights, and the event would run from 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. But under the township's code of ordinances, the hours for the township's park and recreation areas is from dawn to dusk unless there's other approval granted by the township. The Park and Recreation Board reviewed this request at their meeting on February 19th, where they unanimously recommended approval. It also has the full support of myself, our Park and Recreation Director, and our Parks Maintenance staff.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. Holt, would you like to say a few words about your organization or this specific event you're asking for?
I'd love to. So, I just wanted to clarify with those hours. Would it be a problem to change the hours from 6:30 to 8:30?
No. I don't, that's the discretion of the board, but I don't think that would be an issue.
Okay.
So that's earlier than you had originally indicated, correct? Yeah. Okay.
So I just wanted to, well, let me just tell you a little bit very quickly about Child's Light. So we have, the organization's been operational since 2019. And so with the wait lists being what they were post-COVID for kids to get into treatment, it was about 2 years. And so Child's Light were able to get kids into therapy who have experienced severe trauma, and we're talking sex trafficking, sexual abuse, physical violence, suicidal ideation, and for kids who have lost, unfortunately, one or both parents to substance use disorder, and there are a lot of them. And so we have the capability to get these kids into treatment in as little as 3 days. I don't think anybody can do that. The therapists that we use are licensed, they're private trauma-informed therapy. I have therapists that we partner with from Pottstown to Parksburg and everywhere in between. But because we're based and founded in Chester County, we haven't gone out to different counties yet, but that's coming. So this will be our first little inaugural walk, just as a fundraiser and a friend raiser. So I brought some little literature. Thank you. And these will be the little lights that we're going to use. So we're not going to do a bonfire. It's just going to be, and if they work, you know. So just little lights. And we will have comfort dogs. And yeah, so we're expecting this to maybe 75, 100 little families. And we will be good stewards of the park, and we will not leave trash or anything else.
When you say 75 to 100 families, you're talking individuals, 75 to 100 individuals, or a couple hundred people in total? Or?
Oh, no. Oh, no, wouldn't that be lovely? But I don't expect that.
Okay.
So you don't anticipate a need for police traffic control or anything like
No, not this year, next year, right?
Chris, is there any need for someone from Parks to assist with anything?
I don't believe so. I don't think that was discussed at the Park and Recreation Board meeting because, as Ms. Holt said, they're going to clean up everything afterwards.
Okay.
that? Just looking at your schedule for that night, is that enough time to do everything? And you really give yourself half an hour to set up?
Yeah, I think we'll be fine.
I think you'll be all right? Okay.
I do. It's not a lot, you know,
Are you going to do the whole circuit around the trail?
probably.
Yeah. It sounds like you're kind of going to feel it out as you go a little bit this
Yeah.
first event, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But the park is so nice that, and a colleague, actually our board chair, was doing an event at that park for, she's Indian, and I forget what it, what they were using the park for. But it was amazing. It was all Indian businesses, and that was the first time I had ever been to the park. And it's just so great, and it's so central to everything. It's just really nice. We were thinking Wilson Park in Tredyffrin, but this is such a better location. It's so nice. So, yep.
And just to confirm, you're talking 6:30 to 9 p.m. now,
Yeah,
half an hour earlier.
6:30
8:30.
to 8:30.
Okay.
Because I got my bedtime.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you for doing this.
No, thank you for allowing us to do this. I really appreciate it. I think the photos will be great.
So Chris, do you make formal approval of this request?
I think there should be a motion, just because it's the hours are hard-coded in our ordinance, that way it's documented.
Okay, so is there a board member willing to make the motion to approve the use of the community park
Second.
on May the 10th from 6:30 to 8:30? We've got a motion and a second. So is there any public comments or questions?
Other than the walk, is there you're gonna have the comfort dogs, is there anybody gonna speak?
We may have a police officer, just for a couple of minutes. That's all. It's a simple affair. I hope you'll come.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Good luck with your event.
Thank you so much, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is possible authorization to advertise an amendment to our code of ordinances. And Sergeant Greaser is here to explain where we are with this. I think you were not able to make the meeting where we discussed this in the first time around.
Correct.
And we asked you
Yes.
to follow up with some actual traffic data on the roads. I remember that. So
That is
tell us
correct.
what you found out and where you are this evening.
So we were contacted regarding possible speed issue on Saunders Lane. So my unit conducted, we put up our radar traffic classifiers on both Saunders and on Andrew Drive.
Was there also a complaint about speeding on Andrews, or was it just on?
No, because it was a road that intersects with Saunders and it's also not posted at this time, we decided to do Andrew as well. The default speed limit is currently 35, so our analysis shows on Saunders that the classifier was up for a week. The average speed for both directions is 28 miles per hour, so that's obviously within the range we would expect. And then Andrew Drive's a little higher, it's 33.5, but at the 35 mile an hour unposted speed, which would be required for that area, there's no problem. We have no reportable accidents reported in the last 3 years. We have 2 non-reportable, and both were leaving the doctor's office and going out on the Andrew, so very minor accidents. So our recommendation at this time would be leave it as is and not post it, which would default to 35. So I think if we posted lower to 25, that we'd be creating our own problems.
Any questions for the sergeant on the speed limit data he has from the board? Is there anyone in attendance who has a question about the speed data that Sergeant Greaser has for those 2 roads? Okay. Yes, Doug.
Sergeant, you said that posting a lower speed limit would create a problem also?
Well, the speed limit now is 35, and everyone is within range of that, besides a few stragglers. By posting it at 25, and it would create a problem where people are already going over that speed limit. So, and it'd be a difficult area to set up traffic enforcement. You know, it's a pretty heavily traveled bus route. You have craft buses up there. It's not really a great location for speed enforcement, and there's no problems that we're seeing as far as traffic collisions, or we've only received 1 complaint about speed on that roadway. So my suggestion would be we'll post a marked car up there every once in a while, just so people, obey the speed limit.
That'll work. So your suggestion is don't post it at 25, just leave it unposted?
I don't think it'd be necessary to post it because there's no problem that we're seeing. It's very, it's relatively low volume. Saunders is seeing about 600 cars, and that's including the buses that are traveling up and down 455 on Andrew, which is mostly medical buildings, so it's not a heavily traveled road.
But
We have to change the ordinance.
yes, because we need to strike section 1 then, because that's
Yeah.
how they do.
Right, I just received this the same time you did, so.
But Brian, is it necessary to move forward on the other things? I mean, are there going to be more streets coming up that we can add to it a couple months from now? I mean, I think to advertise it if there's more in the pipeline or no.
The only two streets that may be ready for dedication this year could be Trevor or the one off of McElvey, South Congress. We don't have any other developments in the books that are going to be dedicated roads this year.
There's no other open concerns about speeding that you're potentially going to look at in the near future?
Nothing currently. We're doing, right now the classifiers are on Aram Avenue, but as you know, it's not a dedicated road, but we had a complaint from a runner that lives in the neighborhood. And on Rita, I believe, Rita Court. So we're just looking at Aram now to see what kind of volume and speed we're getting, the way it's designed.
Okay, so let's move on to section 2 then, if the board's ready, which is the prohibited turns at intersections be amended to add 4 new locations where turns at intersections will be prohibited. So we discussed, I believe, all of these at the previous meeting, and it seemed to make sense because most of them are already posted, it's just not in our ordinance.
Correct.
So you can't enforce it without it being included, correct?
That's correct.
And then Mr. Wallman added one, I always get this wrong,
At the Popeyes.
at the Popeyes, no left turn out of the Popeyes, only the right turn onto Payoff.
Correct. The island is designed to flow traffic westbound, but people are still making that
Speaking
turn against
and all
the.
that, yeah. Okay. Any questions for the sergeant on this section 2? So I presume we can approve just section 2 tonight, even though the document we have has those sections.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll revise it, then we'll advertise it for hearing at your April 1st meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion to advertise the update to this ordinance, section 7815, for the prohibited turns for advertisement at our upcoming meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Any questions or comments from anyone regarding this motion? Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Sergeant.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Next is agenda item number 6, which is final plans for the North Hill Storm Sewer Project. Chris and Brian are going to update the board on the progress made to date and where we are with this particular project.
So I'll kind of give some of the background information, then I'll turn it over to Brian to go over the technical details about the plans. So before the board this evening is discussion regarding the North Hill Storm Sewer Project. At the end of 2022, the township submitted a grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Small Water and Sewer Program. This was a special round that was made available through ARPA funding through the state. The application was to address the flooding that occurs on West Penn Drive, and then the township at the end of 2023 was notified that we received $425,000 in a grant. The project location is Area 9 of the township's regional stormwater feasibility study that was completed in 2022/2023. The plans for this project have been finalized and are ready to go out to bid. All the necessary easements for the project have been secured and were recorded with the Chester County Recorder of Deeds Office on February 10th. I want to commend Brian, who did a number of meetings with individuals out at the site, as well as here in the office, as well as Chris Peterson from Carroll Engineering. They worked very closely with the residents, and the plan is before the board this evening represent that work. Additionally, Brian and I attended the meeting of the North Hill Civic Association on January 29th to discuss the project. The Carroll Engineering's office has provided plans and outlined a bidding and construction schedule for the project. The plan is to bid the project in April with a bid opening on May 7th, with the project being considered for award at that should say the May 21st meeting, I apologize. And substantial completion is being targeted for the end of September, with full completion at the end of October. Now I'll turn it over to Brian to kind of go over the plans for the project.
So in front of you tonight are the final plans for bidding. The initial design was to create a larger swale on the north side of East Penn Drive, and then replace the undersized infrastructure. From there, the pipe would be extended in this manner where it follows straight down the hill through a series of inlets at the street level through manholes, and then it would turn and go out. There's a stilling basin in this area to allow the water to settle, and any sediment or debris in the water would then settle out before it would flow into the pond. Through meetings with the Civic Association, we have come up with a couple alternate designs which will be bid as alternates. This is alternate one, which is going to be installing a snout water quality structure at the edge of East Penn here, sorry, North Penn, and then it comes. The pipe would be the same, except for, let me get to it. The alternate layout would remove the stilling basin and just have a end wall into the pond. The stilling basin, which is in the area you see here, would be required to be maintained by the Civic Association. If we put the structure in along the street, the township would maintain that structure for water quality. Additionally, we have shown, which is you see in this cloud, a line of pipes and yard drain inlets heading North Penn in the westerly direction to allow for connection for a future phase, and also pick up some additional water on that side of the roadway. So we have an alternate A and an alternate B to be bid, and they're shown on the plans here. Additionally, there is this area you see highlighting right here is the area of the existing, I'll say swale and the washout. So we're proposing to remove a lot of the washout, and in the bottom where the swale is washed out, heading into the pond, we're proposing to line that rock and bring it closer to grade. That's alternate C. So we have 3 different alternates we're adding in for pricing. And the idea is the initial bid will be, base bid will be this design, which is what was agreed upon and what was in our grant application. And then if we can get alternate A, which is the water quality structure, to offset the cost, then we can use potential money from B and C if it all stays within budget. So we're getting additional line items added to the bid, so we could potentially offset the cost of the stilling basin to reline this swale in the channel, add the piping along East Penn, and then also add the water quality structure in lieu of providing the stilling basin.
Questions from the board for Brian?
I'm just curious, what is your opinion of the 3 possible designs here? Which one do you think would be best?
There's 2 designs for the treatment of the water and the discharge. The other 2 alternates are, one is this pipe running along to facilitate a future phase connection, and also collect some more water into the pipe that's currently just flowing across the ground. The Civic Association has asked us to help them with the condition of this channel, which we agreed to if it fits in the budget. So that's why it's an alternate.
Could it be like an adder then?
It's an adder. There's alternate A, B, and C. So so the idea is base bid is the pipe.
All right, so that's the base bid, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then alternate A would be,
or the adder to that. Okay.
yes, the alternate would be change it to the water quality structure and the discharge directly into the pond. And Chris Peterson and I have talked about it, and we feel pretty confident that the amount of cost to put in the stilling basin should be able to offset the cost of potentially A, B, and C.
So instead of the
Basin.
basin, it would be A, B, and C?
Yes.
Okay, so I was.
Yes. Well, A, B, and A is option. You have to do A if you don't do the distilling basin.
Right.
You have to do the water quality structure and the discharge directly into the pond. If that, then there's the cost savings of you doing that is enough from taking this out, then we go to B and C. That was the idea, to add them as Bs and Cs.
Who would maintain would the Civic Association maintain that swale still with the rocks?
Yes, this is on their property. They would have to maintain this once we're
But we
done.
would help them with.
We would help them, we would
Right.
restore it. We would armor it and restore it, and then they would maintain it from there.
So Brian, the expectation is that most likely we expect the cost to come in such that we can do the alternate A, B, C,
A and B and potentially C, yes.
potentially C.
Yes. Or
Is that what the Civic Association would most prefer, or would they prefer the original design?
I think the Civic Association, I don't want to speak for them, I think they were supportive of the alternate because it takes the maintenance of the distilling basin from them and puts it on us for a underground structure that we can put into our vacuum program.
Okay,
The
and
vacuum program.
you believe the efficiency of the snout design is comparable to or as good as the distilling basin design in terms of removing sediment from reaching the pond?
They're supposed, the manufacturer specifications is the same, and I've seen them work, so they do function.
Okay, and what would be the maintenance frequency for the township on that?
Once a year.
Once a
We
year.
would put it into our vacuum truck program.
Okay.
Like we vacuum out the inlets now.
My only other question is, have we got a schedule from Aqua yet on the line relocation?
I believe because of notice to award, notice to proceed would be July 1st. So because of that, July 1st notice to proceed, that is right now working with the schedule from Aqua of their water line adjustment. So Aqua would have it done before the project starts.
And you've been in communication with them?
Chris Peterson has, Carol has coordinated that. So that's where the schedule came from, is the earliest we can start because of their schedule.
Okay.
And that may be in flux because if their schedule gets pushed for something, we would have to push that into procedure.
Okay, but this schedule is currently based on an expectation of Aqua?
Yes, this is based on the
Okay.
expectation of Aqua having the water line move prior to the notice to proceed to start the project.
Got it.
Is there any filtration of the flow prior to the final effluent? And is there any sampling required?
No sampling is required. There's no filtering. It's a sediment barrier that allows the sediment to fall out. There's no
Okay.
filter. Because if there's a filter, that's another piece of maintenance that you have to pull that and
Right.
maintain that. And the amount of flow that goes through these pipes, the filtering system you would need to use would be so massive we couldn't install it.
But we're okay with the quality going into the lake? With this
Yes.
particular engineering? Okay.
Yes. Either one will achieve a level of water quality that they currently do not have. And it's acceptable by DEP for a water quality measure for discharge of stormwater.
Any other questions from the board?
Just one question, on the work that needs to be done along West Penn there, any idea how long West Penn is going to be closed up? I guess it depends on which owner we end up going with.
I'm not sure about Aqua's timing because Aqua has to lower the water line. So Aqua is more impactful than ours just crossing it. But when it's being crossed, it will be closed, and I don't know how long that's going to take. I can't answer that until we deal with the contractors themselves.
I see several residents here. Thank you for being here tonight. Do you have any questions about where we are with this project?
I do. Just
Jamie, would you mind coming up to the mic?
Sure.
We're just trying to have the discipline of allowing everybody to hear you.
Hello, my name is Jamie Ingram, and I'm at 962 North Penn Drive. The question is, the pipe, I guess that's option C, the pipe that goes along B, that goes along West Penn in the direction of North Penn. A couple questions. One, I thought you were going to try to go all the way to the intersection, and then
The idea, the design right now is what we feel might fit in the budget. It's budgetary constraint.
Fine. So then my question is, did the engineer look at, do some hydraulic calculations of the water that they anticipate coming down North Penn? Because I think it's a 12-inch pipe, that seems like a...
That's as large as we can do it because of the clearances for the utilities. We couldn't get a larger pipe in there because utilities, so it's going to be bedded in stone and perforated to allow the stone to also help.
What about an oval pipe? Does that give you any more capacity?
No, because it gets wider.
All right,
We got to get now. We can't get wider. We got to get narrower.
Sounds like we've done what we can do.
Yeah.
All I would say is thank you for all of your hard work. We very much appreciate this. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with a question? Yes, we're all looking forward to a successful project here. It's been a long time coming, and this certainly looks like a great design. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, before the board moves on, I just want to see Mark or Mike give any questions about the project, any concerns, any comments, anything.
Brian, can we get a backup to where we have to clean everything out?
Yeah, because the water quality structure is going to be next to the road. It's the structure in the road. So there's going to be an inlet top on top of it, like an inlet, but it's going to be oversized so the snout's underneath.
We don't have to get down by the lake.
Nope.
Okay.
Your maintenance is going to be all contained to the structure right here in the.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought.
Great. Very good. Well, thank you. No, nothing required.
No action, so
just
this
an
was
update. Yep.
This was in the budget. We will based on the schedule, we will launch the first advertisement on April 1st and bring it back to the board in May for awarding.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we'll move on now to agenda item number 7, which is public hearing and possible adoption of ordinance number 1, 2025, amending section 8457.16 geothermal wells of the West Goshen Township zoning ordinance. So this was discussed previously. It was a motion for advertisement for tonight. By way of background, we adopted provisions for geothermal systems through ordinance number 4, 2012 in April of 2012. And these were subsequently amended through ordinance number 1, 2016, adopted April 13th, 2016, in order to more carefully regulate the placement of geothermal energy wells on residential and commercial properties. Specifically, the latter amendment provided for separation distances for commercial wells adjacent to residential properties and permitted residential wells to be located in front yards. It was discovered recently that certain isolation distance issues and inconsistencies with the regulations of the Chester County Health Department existed in our township's regulation. Specifically, the township currently requires a 30-foot separation distance between the geothermal well and a building foundation. Additionally, unlike the Chester County Health Department, the existing regulations did not provide for a differentiation between what is known as open and closed loop systems. And a definition of that has been provided in the materials for the board and available tonight. This proposed ordinance would create differentiation between those two types of systems on a residential property and establish that a copy of the permit issued by Chester County must be provided to the township. This proposed ordinance was reviewed by the Planning Commission on January the 14th, and it was recommended for adoption. And additionally, comments have been received from the Chester County Planning Commission, which have been provided. The proposed ordinance was advertised in the March 6th and March 11th editions of the Daily Local News as required, and was posted on the township website in the ordinances and resolutions section. So, does anyone on the board have any questions or comments on the ordinance?
Yeah, I have a question. Have we looked into the comments that Mr. Farkas of the who is the senior review committee suggested under comment 4, which was the township should determine if these existing definitions should be amended if they haven't already done so in order to ensure that consistent terminology is utilized throughout the township code.
This was to do with the terms of the geothermal energy systems, pump house, and
right.
Water energy. So, did anyone check that, Chris or Brian?
I didn't. Did you look with those?
No, I mean, I think that as those terms are used in this particular ordinance, they're.
So, yeah, we have definitions for
Yeah.
things, right? So-
Yeah, I think we're fine.
And then there is a clarity, there was also another comment about Chester County really meaning the Chester County Health Department. I mean, it's. again,
That's who
it's
issues the
self-evident,
permits,
so-
yeah. And if that changes, I mean, it'll stay a county government
Yeah.
obligation, so I would rather just reference the county, to be honest. They change the departments frequently.
Okay.
So, and we just said, and I think, Chris, you do this, but just make sure the records reflect that we did advertise this as a public hearing. We did send it to the Daily Local and the Law Library for public inspection. We did receive a letter from the County Planning Commission, and your Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. So those things should be stated in the minutes, since it is an amendment to zoning, and you have to follow those procedures.
Okay, so with having followed the process, we are in a position to be able to adopt this tonight. So is there any last chance for questions for anyone else on the board?
No, I just think this is just, we're just getting this in line with Chester County. I mean, we're just basically being on the same page.
Then it goes back to them after tonight, because they want a formal decision made by the board.
What, who does it?
They say that they want an official decision made by the township supervisors tonight.
Who does? The county? Wait.
Yeah, we let the county know when they're not.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 1, 2025, which is specifically amending section 84-57.16 geothermal energy systems and amending the requirements for those systems. Is there a second? Thank you, John. Is there any public comment or questions? Very good, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is item number 8, discussion and possible authorization to issue a request for proposal for communication consultant services for West Goshen Township. And Chris, would you like to introduce this, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just open it. So before the board this evening is our request for authorization to issue a request for proposal for communication consultant services. The township has engaged the services of professional communications consultants since 2019 and have worked with Dandelions Digital since that time. They manage things like our social media, occasional postings on the website, and other communication documents for the township. At the December 17, 2024 meeting, the board approved a one-year service agreement with Dandelions Digital with the discussion that an RFP for the service would be issued in 2025. The information outlined in the draft RFP are based on the general services currently received, but I did include a provision for firms to outline any other services they may offer that may have not been outlined. And I've set the deadline at April 25th, 2025, and myself and our Park and Recreation Director, Ken Lear, would be the ones who would review the proposals that are received.
Thank you, Chris. Does the board have any questions on the RFP?
I have one question. On the scope of work, which is listed under services requested, could we add another bullet point there, which would be something like this, also provide consultation and assistance in developing and issuing public press releases as required?
As needed, or as requested by the voters.
Yeah, we can have that.
Chris, I have a question why we're doing this so early in the year. We've agreed a 1-year, so 2025 contract with Dandelions Digital. If you get proposals by April, usually people will stipulate the pricing is good for 60 days, 90 days, but this would not be in effect until January, is that correct?
You can actually, under your agreement with Dandelions Digital, you can terminate the contract with 30 days written notice.
So my question to the board is this the process we want to use? We want to stick with what we've already authorized with Dandelions Digital and maybe issue this RFP later in the year ahead of the budget process? Or do you want Chris to proceed now with sending it out with an end of April kind of deadline?
I think if we can get ahead of it, I'd rather send it out RFP.
You want to do it now?
Out there, see what's out there.
Okay, anyone?
Is there any reason why we can't say we would start January 1st?
You could do that. That could ultimately be the decision that comes back.
Okay.
Yeah, we would have to ask them if the pricing was good through that day, whatever we selected, if we did that approach. Yeah. Do you foresee any transition issues relative to this service, or is it pretty straightforward in terms of the capabilities and skills in providing the services that are being requested?
I've admittedly never done anything like this, so I can't opine on that. I mean, this wouldn't be like transitioning over, say, our website when we migrated over to Civic Plus. And one of the reasons, and that's why I put specifically that they must be familiar with that platform since we use it. I mean, in my mind, this is really just transferring over like passwords, email lists, and things like that that would be maintained. That's assuming that it goes to a new provider.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I brought this up before, and I'm bringing it up again, mainly because there was an extra cost before, but I'm still not convinced that we need to manage the town's social media platforms.
Why?
I don't know what purpose that's serving, and if we're gonna pay extra for that service.
Social media?
Yeah, there's just scanning social media for
Oh,
comments.
The
the,
scan.
talking about the extra thing?
Yeah, the extra. I'm not sure that.
Which
we want
bullet
that
is
in
that
our
on the
RFP.
scope?
I'm not sure that that's important enough to have an RSP to pay extra for it. I think they were charging $500.
That was for the software, and what that software allows Dandelions Digital to do is to post to our social media. It does also scan other things, that's another capability of it, but it's what enables them to be able to post the township social media instead of going in and posting natively, like to each individual platform. I think that's actually very valuable.
Well, we agreed that we didn't want to pay the increased cost for that software, right? And
Yes,
so-
and they agreed for this year they were eating that cost.
Right, so if we're going out for an RFP, we don't want it included.
Well, where is it? Where is it in here?
Wouldn't it be under management of township social media, including a non-limited to that?
Well, I asked them to provide any sort of cost information for any sort of software that's provided that's required to be able to function. What did I forget how I worded it.
I think when we get the proposals back, we'll be able to.
Yeah, it's
see.
bullet 3 of the procedure, an outline of any social media management software that is utilized, including the functionality of the software and any associated fees.
And then under number 4, fee structure, I put if the firm utilizes software for social media management, please outline the platform used and the charges passed to the client, if any.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
I'm going to say this was the first time I put something out to get some kind of samples to sort of work off of and got nothing, so I kind of had to create this from scratch.
That looks pretty good, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're looking, so I'm hearing the board in favor of proceeding as of now to issue the RFP per Chris's suggestion, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion then to authorize Chris to proceed with the RFP.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so I have a motion to proceed with the RFP for communications consultant for West Goshen Township. Is there any public comments or questions on the motion? Yes, sir. Would you mind coming up to the microphone and stating your name?
Yes. Hello, I'm Benson Lee. I live at 1002 Olivia Court. I just have a question regarding it. You're saying that you're paying $500 a month for the security service. Is that correct?
Yeah.
No.
Sorry, how much?
There was an annual subscription charge for software that our current provider uses that I believe was like $5,300 for the year.
$5,300 for a year?
For like the subscription service for the software.
Okay, and the purpose of the software is just to regulate the social media?
Yeah, it manages the posting on the township social media websites.
Okay, so like my main question was, is there any like alternatives that are possible instead of having to pay $5,300 a year for a security service? Or
It's not a security service, and we're not paying that charge because the current provider agreed to absorb that cost for 2025, and that's the purpose of this RFP, was to like get pricing and see what other pricing is available.
Oh, okay, I see, I got it. So
just to be clear, we pay about, what is it, $23,000?
$3,500 a month.
38,000-ish
Roughly, yes.
So we have someone provide all our communication content, and they manage these postings that we do to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. We pay for that service. So that's our communications consultant. So we if you're asking how much we pay for the service, it's in the 30,000s range.
42,000.
42,000.
A year.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why we're doing an RFP, because we want to see what kind of pricing we can get.
I got it.
You got a business you can make an offer here on this?
No, I just felt like that was just a lot of money to be spending just to regulate your social media. So if you're going to change it through this RFP, then go for it. I was just curious on how you were going to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how few people can meet some of these requirements. So you have to be able to know our platform, etc., and manage our web page and provide that information. And we won't get that many responses. So please encourage any business you know who can provide this kind of service to bid on this project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, just for clarification and for the record, because this is an RFP for professional services, we're not required to take the lowest bidder.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we have a motion and a second, right? So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Okay, agenda item number 9 is discussion on board member compensation. Discussion regarding the provisions outlined in Act 94 of 2024 relating to the compensation of members of the Board of Supervisors. So before the Board of Supervisors this evening is discussion regarding the provisions of this Act 94. By way of background information, in October 2024, Governor Shapiro signed Act 94 of 2024, which amended the maximum compensation thresholds for supervisors outlined in the PA Second-Class Township Code. The compensation thresholds are set based on population and currently are as follows prior to the enaction of Act 94 in October. So for our size of township, which is in the 15,000 to 24,999 population, it was $4,125 per year. Pursuant to the Act 94, the new compensation thresholds are now based on the same maximum population. It increases to $6,915. Act 94 took effect on December the 1st, and whether or not to implement the new thresholds are a decision for the governing body, the Board of Supervisors. If the board decides to implement the new thresholds, an ordinance would need to be adopted. Sample ordinances were provided with the board materials and available to the public. Please be advised that any change to the compensation levels enacted by the board would not become effective until the beginning of the next term of a supervisor. Therefore, any change would not be applicable to the current board members serving their existing terms, only to newly elected board members going forward. Okay, so this is an opportunity for discussion for the board about Act 94 and to see what folks' views are in terms of increasing supervisor compensation to the maximum allowed, which would be $6,915 per year. Any comments from the board?
Well, just to be clear, this board is not considering raising our pay ourselves here, okay? It's only for whomever would be elected to this board going into the future.
So I have a question, since I'm up for election this year, and I could start next year, should I not vote?
No, you can't.
Just come into the board.
You have a right to say whether you think that's appropriate
Even though I'll
compensation.
benefit from it next
Doesn't
year?
Well, who knows?
Doesn't matter.
Said it.
You don't know for sure you'll be elected, you don't know if it'll apply to you.
So a little bit of background information in addition to this previous value before Act 94 was last set in 1995, which is 30 years ago. So it's been at this level for 30 years, as far as I can determine.
With an increase of $2,790.30.
So we actually look at what the value of $4,195 was in 1995, and allowing for inflation, it would actually be $8,598 today. So
How much was it?
8,598. So the value of a supervisor is continuing to be less valued over time.
You don't do it for the money, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
So I actually think we should adopt what's called Sample A in terms of the board packet, which is the annual salary on a quarterly basis. And would suggest that we ask our staff and our council to prepare an ordinance revision.
I'll say that most of your counterparts have done that. A lot of them have it in their ordinance that
It's automatic.
it's automatic if the state legislature were to change the maximum salary, that they would be permitted to do that.
So do you want to, are we asking or directing, is a suggestion to ask that it be made automatic for any future in 30 years' time when it's raised again? Or do you want it just to be always a decision of the board at that time?
I'd say automatic.
Who says automatic?
I
Nate,
say
you
Tina
said?
says
Tina says automatic? Okay, you can make a motion then.
I would make that motion to do an ordinance and to automatically upgrade it whenever the law changes.
I guess that's a little different than sample A, you know. Sample A did not include that.
It's going to be basically an annual salary or a per meeting, or the basic per meeting. There's two options, right?
The maximum is still the same, it's
Yeah.
just that you're breaking it down based on your meetings. And you're paid per the meeting, and then you have an option to not be paid if a supervisor misses a meeting without an excuse.
I prefer it on a quarterly.
Okay, so Tina has made a motion to adopt along the lines of sample A ordinance adjusted for future increases to be incorporated into the ordinance. Is there a second for that?
Sorry, it's just with two amendments and ordinance.
It's really to direct staff and Kristen to produce an ordinance that will then have to go through 2 public meetings where we advertise it for.
Okay, so this is not approving this.
It's not approving, it's just directing them to produce a sample.
And Sean, if you wanted, you could prepare the ordinance and advertise for a public hearing to do it in one step rather than 2.
Okay, would you like to amend your motion to do that?
Yes, I would like to amend that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment or questions? Jamie,
Come back up
if you
there.
don't mind, yeah.
I got my new tennis shoes, so.
Yeah, get some steps in.
Jamie Ingram, 962 North Penn Drive. Do the Board of Supervisors get any other compensation?
We are eligible for healthcare benefits. Yes, healthcare benefits with the township.
So, I mean, it seems like an incredible bargain for the people of West Goshen Township. Like, really, it's like there's a lot of hardworking people up here, and $6,900 a year seems like peanuts. It's sort of if you don't eat much for lunch, it'll give you lunch money.
Nice of beer money,
I support it, and again, I always want to make sure I thank you all for your hard work.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Is there any other comments, Doug?
Doug White, West Goshen. So the maximum will be 6,900. That doesn't mean you'll do the maximum?
No, the motion was to raise it to that maximum.
Okay. All right, well, I support it. Because knowing what, he's never elected, but you guys, it's ongoing every day, every night there's a meeting. Well, you got another meeting tonight? Something like that here. Another meeting every night for the week. So I support it, thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Just check.
Any other comments? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition?
I think I would be very
Would abstain.
more comfortable to abstain.
Okay, so actually we'll abstain and the motion passes 4-0. Moving on to agenda item number 10, discussion and possible authorization to solicit bids for certain property owned by West Goshen Township. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, before the board this evening is consideration to authorize the sale of certain property owned by West Goshen Township. The items outlined for sale are across the streets, parks, sewer, and police departments. John Weddy in our Public Works Department prepared a list of items to be solicited for bid and included the estimated value based on research of comparable cost. If authorized for sale, the items outlined in the attached list would be placed on municipal bid, as we've done with recent sales in the past, and then the winning bidders would be brought back to the board for approval once the bidding closes. we have, looks like 2, 6, we have 7 items that would be going up, a combination of 2 mowers, 2 gators, and a trailer and 2 vehicles, a Ford F-550 and a 2017 Chevy Colorado.
Are we going to be placing all of this equipment that's on bid?
Some were replaced and some were not marked for replacement in our capital plan.
Do you know if the sewer truck was planned to be replaced?
I believe it is, but I can check with Mike on that.
Question, any other questions? Okay, someone willing to make a bid to, motion to authorize the, this property to go on municipal bid? Thank you. Tina and Nate, motion second, okay. Is there any questions or comments from anyone? All right, then we're ready to take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Moving on to agenda item number 11, which is reports for the month of February 2025. We start with police report by Chief Carroll.
Thank you. So for February 2025, the police department responded to 2012 calls for service. 38 of those were alarms, and 2 of those alarms were deemed valid. We responded to 67 accidents, 10 of which were reportable accidents, and we drove a total of 200,026 miles. Of the alarms that were responded to, none were of the highest fine rate. The highest rate this month was for a 4th violation. And we performed our normal monthly trainings, and in addition to that, Sergeant Sedlak attended an unmanned aerial vehicle pilot training, and Officer Needham attended advanced criminal investigations training. Performed assists 25 times this month for a total of 11.5 hours, and we received 20 assists from other departments. That's the report. I'll certainly take questions on it.
Chief, could you give us an update on where you are with the recruitment
Yes.
additional officer?
I didn't, but I will. So we offered the job to a young lady named Romy Costa O'Brien. She accepted the job. We're going to swear her in publicly on April 1st. And she's going to begin with the township this month.
Great. Any other questions for the chief?
We've got a lot going on. What's the upcoming community events, Chief? We have a Skaterama coming up, right?
We have a Skaterama on April the 12th.
Okay. And that's open to the public?
Yes.
Anybody can come?
Yes. We're ready to sign up. It's advertised to all the kids in the school district. Let them can sign up to show up. And the first session is at 11, and the second session is at 12:30, 12:05. So don't trust that.
And it's free to the public, right? Or what do
It's
they
free to
get?
the public, yes. We received a number of donations from some of our businesses, and those businesses will be advertised at the event.
And also you have the next police community meeting that's coming up also in April. I believe it's April the 29th.
Yes. At 6
And
o'clock
that's
right
going to
here.
be, where's that going to be?
Right in this room at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay. And that's also advertised on the township's website. And then also the Gumshoe Academy is coming up. Summertime, what's that about?
So this is probably at least our 4th or 5th year. There'll be 4 sessions offered to the 4th graders in the school district, with the township residents getting priority, but usually we're able to accommodate everybody that wants in. It's a week-long camp, half day, where they go through some of the stuff police do to try and solve pseudo crime.
How do you advertise for that? Do you actually do it in the schools or?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on our social media page, but we do it in the schools.
And we have it on the front page of the website as well.
Will the community event on the 29th be in tandem with Westchester?
No,
No?
just us.
Other questions? Anyone in attendance have a question for the police chief? Great, well, thank you for your report. Also included in the board packet is the monthly reports from Good Fellowship Ambulance, Westchester Fire Company, and Goshen Fire Company. If the board has any questions or comments on those, you can raise them now in public, or obviously respond directly to the organization. If not, we'll move on to agenda item number 12, which is Board of Supervisors announcements. So start on my left tonight, Nate.
All right. February 24th, I attended the zoning board hearing. On the 25th, met along with John Hellman, with Mark Berlami. We discussed projects of the Streets Department along with merger of the Parks Department and Streets. On the 4th of March, I attended the America 250 meeting in East Goshen to discuss upcoming events celebrating America's 250th birthday. On the 6th of March, I attended the Parks and Recreation Organization meeting to discuss the development of our parks. And on March 7th, I attended the PSAT-sponsored Fire and EMS 2025 Trends and Opportunities for Township workshop. That's it.
Great, thanks, Nate. Tina?
Okay, on February 20th, I attended the Chester County Business and Industry event, State of the County, honoring Brian O'Leary, who's our Executive Director of Chester County Planning Commission, and Skip Bryan, who's the Chairman of Buckley Bryan Law Firm. February 25th was our SAC meeting. I'd also like to have a reminder that our styrofoam ordinance went into effect March 9th for all our business establishments. On March 11th, we had a meeting with Jeff Hunt, who is with Malvern Health now. He's left behavioral, and they do a little bit different treatment than Haven did. So we're going to meet with him again, and also the director, to go over to see how there's synergies there and how we can incorporate with them, the police can incorporate with them as needed for drug abuse and various other things. On March 13th, I attended the Fire and EMS class and Trends Opportunities for Townships in Exton. And on March 14th, I attended a very interesting Chester County Business and Industry event. There was a panel consisting of CEOs from CHOP, Wawa, Vanguard, and CTDI. They addressed the economy, sustainability, education in America, workplace challenges and wins. It was held at Westchester University, who had a major involvement in it, and very, very well done, narrated by somebody on ABC News.
Tom, she was great.
She did a fabulous job. Tom, really, really good job. That's it.
Was that recorded by any chance? Is it
I
relative
don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
amazing.
It was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I wish students were there. They had great messages for students. I
did.
took notes and talked to my daughters about them. It was
Yeah,
really
I
great
did too.
messages.
Very, very well done.
And it sounded like they were going to try and do it in the future, so have additional
Every year.
opportunities to talk to other CEOs. Yeah.
And that was the first time they did it, so
Sounds great.
very, very well done.
Thank you, Tina. Ashley?
I went to the Park and Open Space Community meeting, as was mentioned, and I also was in attendance of the PSAT's Fire and EMS course, which was very well attended and put on, and I'm a lot there, so that's it.
Thank you, Ashley. John?
Yeah, sure. Friday, February the 21st, I had a meeting with the Board of Supervisors and Chief Carroll, at which point we discussed several personnel issues. And on Tuesday, February the 25th, I had a meeting with Nate Mulman, as he mentioned already, and Mark McTolley, the head of Streets Department. We discussed also what Nate had mentioned as well, current street projects and future stormwater projects. And we also reviewed current plans to merge the Parks and Streets Department. And on Tuesday, March 11th, I attended a meeting with Jeff Hunt, along with Tina, as she's already mentioned, and also intention besides Tina and myself was kept in the video, Chris Bayshore, at which point we discussed that the mental health resources and services being offered by his group, especially in the area of drug and alcohol rehabilitation. And like Tina mentioned, we're going to meet up again with him, later on this week. Is it this week or next week?
I think it's next week.
Yeah, it's next week. Then on Tuesday, March 11th, I also attended and participated in the Planning Commission meeting. Then on Wednesday, March 12th, attended the Parks and Rec Open Space Plan update. And on Thursday, March 13th, attended the Fire and EMS 2025 Trends and Opportunities for Townships. That was presented by Jerry Ozog of PSATs. And we discussed a lot of things. It was a roundtable type discussion. It was about common issues and best practices of fire and EMS providers in many of the Chester County municipalities. So it was a pretty well worth the time spent just exchanging ideas and common goals and best practices. on Tuesday, March the 18th, attended the monthly solar panel project construction update meeting with Sean. And also, Tina and I met with Chief Carroll for a monthly board liaison meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you, John. The full board met in an executive session on 2/21 to discuss police personnel matters with Chief Carroll and Captain Domidio. And we also spent some time that day reviewing the monthly performance management issues with our township manager. We also met on 3/6 in executive session to discuss police personnel matters with our labor council. And we met on 3/7 with legal counsel on a workers' compensation claim. On 3/18, we also met, which is today, prior to this meeting, in executive session to discuss legal matters associated with the Greystone dedication of open space, and we also discussed a real estate acquisition matter. I personally attended on 3/12 the Parks and Rec open space public input session, as has been mentioned already, and I also attended the PSAT's facilitated session on fire and EMS trends and opportunities on 3/13. Today we attended the monthly solar array project meeting, and just to give a little more flavor on that, the project mobilized yesterday, and TerraSol are now on site to do the construction phase of the project. It's slated to run through late April with a tie-in to the power, Pico power, scheduled for the late in April, and probably substantial completion by the end of the month, and then final project completion hopefully by mid-May. So everything seems to be on track with that. All the materials seem to have been procured, and we have a delivery date for the panels of April the 11th. So does anybody have any questions for the board members? Very good. We'll move on then to agenda item 13, which is Township Manager's announcements.
The Township's monthly e-newsletter will be issued on Friday, March 21st, 2025. The large announcement that I have for this evening is that the Township has been awarded a $700,000 multimodal transportation fund grant from the Commonwealth Financing Authority to address flooding and pedestrian safety on Montgomery Avenue. We're still awaiting word on the corresponding application to PennDOT for their similar program. The Township, today we received the grant agreements for that project. Did you get it?
So do I need to liaise with you on signing those, or do I need an account? I forget what I need.
Yep, I can set you up with that. Okay. I executed it on my end, so once that's done, then we're all ready to go. I have asked Chris Peterson to provide a proposal for bidding and construction oversight. That'll be before the board on April 1st. We will need permits from state organizations for that project, so that'll be part of the proposal from Carroll Engineering. That includes permits from DEP and from PennDOT. And I'll note that with this award, we've secured approximately $1.7 million in grant funding from various organizations for projects, and that does not include the nearly $2 million that the Sewer Authority has secured over the last 3 years. So we've done substantially well over the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, Montgomery Avenue, I think we've discussed this in public meetings before. It's been a decades-old problem where the culvert under the road is totally undersized for the main storm events that we get. And the intention here is to really address that in a substantial way with a much more adequately designed culvert system, very similar to what we did on Balmar Street a year or two ago. So looking forward to that, and hopefully you'll mention the upcoming stream cleanup, which is in that location as well. Go ahead, Chris.
So just kind of going back, I think part of the reason why that application was successful is not only what Carroll Engineering put together in terms of the application, but we had letters of support from Representative PLE, Senator Committa, Chester County Hospital, Good Fellowship Ambulance Company. We had data from the police department. There was a lot of information that we were able to include in that application that I think made it successful.
Yeah, it's very robust.
And if you want to read it, the application is available on the Township website. In terms of ordinances under review, the landscaping ordinance was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting on March 11th. It was recommended that the ordinance be sent to Gilmore & Associates to review in an expedited manner as part of the overall zoning ordinance review. Brian and I discussed this, and we did provide it to Gilmore & Associates, and they're going to discuss it at the next Land Planning Committee meeting on April 21st. We provided a copy of the ordinance to Judy to review. And members of the Sustainability Advisory Committee will be invited to attend that meeting on April 21st. We have a few openings on our boards and committees for alternate members on the Park and Recreation Board and the Zoning Hearing Board, as well as a regular member on the Historical Commission. And we do have a recent resignation on the Planning Commission. In terms of the redevelopment of the Parkway Shopping Center and the Wawa, the technical meeting occurred on February 10th. Brian and Chris Williams from Bowman Consultants attended that meeting on behalf of the township. They did analyze the split-phased operations and believe that that might cause increased delays in queuing for traffic along High Street. But we have requested that Chris Williams review this as part of his analysis in his review of the land development plans. And Brian is reviewing the revised land development plans that have been received. No other additional information is provided this time.
Just on that, Brian, was PennDOT satisfied with the applicant's traffic consultant assessment of the split phasing?
There's been no response from PennDOT for review of the split phase documents that were provided.
Okay, so they submitted it, they described what they'd done, but there was no reaction from PennDOT?
There's been nothing that I've seen from PennDOT in response to the split phase study that was submitted.
Okay. I haven't seen anything either. We do have an upcoming conditional use application for the for Westchester University's geothermal pump house. That will be before the board on April 15th. It was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting on March 11th. And then we're also awaiting the application for the master plan for the university, which we hope to receive by the end of the month. We do have an internal meeting, myself, the solicitor, Brian and Shelby, on March 24th with them.
The geothermal pump house was reviewed by our Planning Commission on March the 11th. Was there any concerns or issues from that perspective?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
In terms of our American Rescue Plan Act projects, the Fresh Meadows project continues, and the lining portion of it is going to begin on March 24th, weather permitting. We've secured all the necessary enter agreements with property owners, and I sent a notification to them today for those who we had email addresses notifying them that the project was going to begin March 24th. And then the Government Services Center Basin project is underway with directional drilling for the under drain scheduled to begin this week. And we had Soft Dig do some back truck work to remove sediment as part of the project. It was infinitely more economical to have them do that under our back truck program than to have the contractor do it.
So do we bid the project with Soft Dig doing the work, or are we going to get a change order that has a price deduction?
I don't believe there was any back truck work associated with that contract. No, there wasn't. This was something that came about when they mobilized on it.
Okay.
And it was only, I forget what the proposal was. This was like $1,000, I believe.
Yeah, this was a very small cost it's being absorbed in our overall back truck program.
Okay.
And it's the inlets and pipes that are in the parking lot that feed the basin.
Got it.
When they get it mobilized, the contractor noticed the condition and requested about cleaning them because they don't want to have that sediment wash in while they're trying to do the bait. So we cleaned the pipes for them instead of them charging us for it.
So it's a field condition issue that got resolved?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The next meeting, as I mentioned, for the zoning ordinance update will be April 21st at 6 p.m. That's with the Land Planning Committee. The Park and Recreation Open Space Plan, we don't have another meeting set, but I will note that we're nearing 1,000 responses for the survey. I think we've done pretty well on survey responses. We've done 2 focus groups with arts and with sports. They were on February 12th and March 6th, and then we had a public meeting on March 12th.
Just getting back to the zoning ordinance update, we're going to have a meeting with Penrose, I believe is the name of them.
Yes, I'm going to schedule.
About affordable, attainable housing.
Yep, I'm going to schedule that before April 21st.
Okay.
The community park improvements, there's going to be a proposal for the bathroom portion of the work before the board for consideration from Carroll Engineering on April 21st, with the plan to put that out to bid. And then for the splash pad, we're going to submit another application to the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program specific for that component prior to the May 31st deadline. So there'll be a resolution before the board for that grant program in the next couple of months. And then finally, for some upcoming community events, the Chester Ridley Crum Watershed Association's Creek Cleanup will be held on March 29th from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And information on how to register is available on the website. We have our spring yard sale on April 5th from 9 to 2. The Cherry Blossom bus trip will be on March 29th. The short movies at Community Park, which is in partnership with the Westchester Film Festival, will be on Saturday, April 5th at 8 p.m. Our next yard waste collection days are April 12th and May 17th. We'll have an e-waste and shredding event on April 12th. Our Easter egg hunt and decorated hat parade will be April 12th at 10:30 a.m. with a rain date of Saturday, April 19th. There's a Great Gatsby Broadway bus trip on April 24th, and the next Traffic Safety Committee meeting will be May 14th at 9 a.m. at the Township Building. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chris. That was very comprehensive. Does anyone have any questions for Chris? Charlie?
So with all this grant money spilling into the community, can't we plan these storm sewer projects, which could take 40 to 50 years, plan that spending out and give our residents a tax break, lower our millage rate?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Can we lower our millage rate because we're getting all this grant money, which replaces money that I think we had in the budget?
That's a policy decision for the board.
I think we had this discussion. Yeah, we kind of kicked that around during the budget discussions last year. We have a lot of projects that need funding, and it's great that we get grant money that funds them as we go along, but it doesn't mean that the overall cost of what we have to try to tackle over the years ahead doesn't need the reserves that we currently have and have earmarked for capital improvements.
I know we spoke about that at length last year, and I don't know that anything's been initiated to plan the spending that we need to do on the storm sewer repairs.
Yeah, at the risk of repeating myself, we have 3 buckets again. You're focused on the feasibility study. Our focus is on the CMP pipe replacement and the near-term issues that presents to us. So Fresh Meadows is our 2nd year in there. We've used ARPA funds to do that. Our ARPA funds have gone. Mark's left this evening, but his next target is Canterbury, which has got a lot of issues and sinkholes that appear there. We'll be spending some substantial sums of money on that. So that's what we're going to spend money on. Thank you. All right, any other questions for Chris?
Just a quick thing, Mike, the skate-a-rona is the 12th, April 12th?
Yes.
Yeah. Just maybe better planning next time with, because the Easter egg hunt
Oh,
is
same day.
Same time.
Yeah, we were somewhat restricted because of the availability.
Yeah, no, I'm just, okay.
All right, then we're ready to move on to agenda item number 15, which is, 14, Township Engineers Stormwater Announcements and Woodlands of Gracetown Update. Brian.
We'll start with a stormwater update tonight. I've been in discussions and working with Carroll Engineering on MS4 PRP projects. One project that we've been discussing for a while, I had an update for tonight. Give me a second. That would be the Basin Road project that we had discussed. It was in our PRP plan. We had initially discussed, the plan initially was to restore a basin and a stream restoration in this area in our property behind Basin Road. That project was removed from our PRP due to conflicts with the DEP not allowing us to restore the basin because they're considering it a dam. So the cost of it would have been prohibitive, and it would not have achieved the goals of making it a infiltration system, because making a dam, you have to impound water, which goes against what we wanted to do with infiltration. So we pivoted that project to a stream restoration in the same area, and we had Carroll Engineering do a feasibility study and present it to DEP, and once again, we had issues with wetlands out there. So that project was put on the shelf. Then Chris Pearson and I talked about it and looked at it, and we had looked at the far northern end of the property, which comes off of where the Warren and David Lane meet, and there's a section of stream in there, and the property owner had complained about a pipe in that area.
Standing water.
Yes, so we did look at it, and I'm happy to report that I have 90% design plans to show you this evening. These plans have been prepared by Carol for a stream restoration. This is what it would look like when it's finished with the new trees, and the area you see shaded is the area that would be restored as part of the project. The pipe in question that was being complained about is the discharges here on our property, so we would be restoring that area to the confluence and all the way back to almost to Warren Lane. There's an area there we can't touch because of the way it's structurally already done with retaining walls, and that, but this whole area would be restored. The project is proposing to restore 560 lineal feet of the stream. That 560 feet at current DEP regulations is 44.8 pounds per foot per year. So it's 25,133 pounds of reduction.
25,133
is the proposal, is what it would achieve under current DEP and what is approved in our PRP. So this is a project that's in our PRP. We'd just be relocating it elsewhere on the property.
Is it substantially less than the original goal for pounds per reduction?
Yes, the original goal was 49,450 for the length of stream that was on the piece that we could not do. We did have a wetlands delineation done, and you see this little gray area here, that's where the wetlands start. So there's a wetlands delineation performed in this area, so we cannot go any further. We are limited by wetlands.
Is some of this project on private property?
Yes, that's why I had this. That's the next step in the process, is to contact this property owner and talk to them about the potential for the easement, because we do need to impact some of that property. That property is all within the riparian buffer currently, so it's got to be maintained by the buffer. And the state, it's one large property in the corner. If you look here,
is that part of the property in use, do you know, by the property owner?
That part of the property is vacant. So you see they have a fence here, we'd be looking in this area over here.
Okay.
Staying outside their fence line.
You're going to need an easement also from the neighbor next door?
Here?
Right there,
No.
that's where that pipe runs.
Because the pipe's staying where that is.
Everything
we're doing is downstream of the outfall.
So where's that pipe, where's the water coming from that comes through that pipe?
Right about here.
Well, where's it source from?
There's a drain on Warren Road.
It's coming from Warren Road?
Yes,
There's it right here. Starts here, comes straight down this property line.
But you don't have to change the angle of that pipe?
Not at all.
Okay. So if you do the stream restoration and all that, it'll just naturally flow out?
Infiltrate, yeah.
Yes. So next steps would be Chris and I need to contact the property owner for easement if we're authorized to continue moving forward.
So you got 95% design already?
90.
90%.
Do you need a decision tonight from the board, or where are we at with this?
What do you think, Chris? Do you need a decision, or just they can just authorize us to move forward for discussing easements?
If the board's comfortable with the design, then I think Chris and Brian can go ahead and start working.
So I'd like to know what the estimated cost is for the
$520,000 was estimated. So in retrospect or comparison, this would provide a cost of about $20 a cost of reduction is $19.34 per pound is what the cost would be. And the Government Services Center Basin costed out with the bid at $20.60 per pound. So it's even a little bit cheaper than the basin.
Now, how do they compare to other townships and other municipalities that are working on PLP reduction projects? Are they in the $20 a pound reduction range?
They're a lot more expensive because they don't have streams.
Okay.
You have to have a stream that's in your area that, unless you get on private property, not a lot of townships have streams.
But I thought stream restorations were the more expensive of the low-hanging fruit relative to basin improvements and other
Well,
things.
keep in mind, this is getting 25,000 pounds of reduction. The basin right now, based upon the design, until we get it as-built, is 17,000. So we're getting more poundage, but there is cost involved to get through there. So stream restoration gets you more reduction, but it also can be at a larger cost. Now, our previous stream reductions that we have in our PRP plan, we have one for 198,000, we have one for 132,000, one for 103,000 pounds. They're much longer, so they're much larger projects. But those are, I'll get to that part of my presentation next.
This was not a budgeted project for this year, was it?
It's not budgeted, but it's in, we do have design, we did authorize the design proposal, so that's still, we're still working on that proposal, but we do not have authorized to be in the project this year. It should be, if this moves forward, the idea is to get it into next year's budget for construction.
Okay, so obviously a key next step is getting consent from the property owner for an easement, so it would make sense to know whether this is a viable project, because if there's an issue there, then we may not be viable, right?
Correct. Or we'd have to reconfigure the project and potentially lose
some of the benefit.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, another collateral effect or benefit of this project that we could go ahead with it. A lot of the residents along Warren complained to me about this situation because of the standing water. It's a breeding zone for mosquitoes. So during the summertime, it really, they're just inundated by it. So this should help eliminate that.
Yes.
Well, just so I'm clear, do you think, I mean, the area we're really doing is upstream of where the ponding is occurring for the main pond. The ponding's down there, so what you're doing there is a little bit, but then right after that is where the wetlands start. So you're really going to think you're going to affect the ponding there by allowing that stream to have a little better infiltration upstream?
Well, the idea is not infiltration. The idea is we're going to be opening this area up to allow it to flow, because the way this is filled in, this doesn't flow. Once it gets to this point, it flows fine.
All right.
It's the ponding area is here because
of the terrain.
Because of
Okay.
It's still rooted and filled over the years and all that.
Makes sense.
But instead of just cleaning it out, we can also make it a project.
Very good.
And get
So,
PRP benefit.
what do you need from us tonight? Anything?
Nothing, just the fact that we're going to make you aware we're moving forward.
Okay, so you're going to pursue getting the easement?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I wanted to give you an update on our PRP plan. So our PRP plan has a requirement for our reduction is 390,894 pounds of reduction. I've been working with Chris Peterson, and Goose Creek Alliance has discussed it, but Chris Peterson has discussed it with Land Studies, who also works with Goose Creek Alliance, about the potential for Barker Park and for the property behind all the headwaters to evaluate a floodplain reconnection restoration project for both of those areas. I know I came to you in the past and told you that those two properties were not viable because of wetlands. We've learned through the process of discussing this with Land Studies is they don't, with these projects, they actually go right to central office with these projects, because central office reviews them and has approved everything. So Southeast has to give it to central office. Central office is because you're creating new wetlands and new floodplain and restoring it, you can remove the wetlands that were there to create the new ones as part of the project.
As long as they're big, or is there a ratio?
Sorry?
Is there a ratio where you have to have twice as much new wetlands as the one you're corrupting?
I don't know the details of it, but there is currently a project being constructed over at Kettle Flats in Exton. That's a big around the flats. That's a big floodplain restoration reconnection project. They got almost 70,000 pounds reduction out of that project for their PRP. So Chris has done the legwork for me. He's talked to Land Studies about it. Land Studies believes both properties are viable, that we can look at for a potential. What we need to do as the next step is to have Land Studies get us a proposal. If you would like that, I can get them for feasibility for each project, for each property, to see what it could do, what it would potentially look like, and how much reduction we can get out of each. And that could put those two stream restoration projects back into our PRP on land that we own, and go find more private land to do projects on. So I would like to request a proposal to bring back to you at a future meeting, and for, and have land studies come and present it and explain to you and give you a presentation. And also, you can ask them questions about the proposal at that time.
Sounds good to me. Okay.
So that's so if currently, if we can get some of those numbers back in, we could get pretty close to our reduction number if we can get those two projects to go.
Great, thanks, Brian. So anything for Woodlands, Greystone?
We did meet this evening to discuss the open space. I'm currently working with the developer and their representatives to get to the finish line for the open space trails and that. They still have a few more items to address on the condition of the trails and several items to address in the as-built plans to get back to me. Other than that, the last thing I have for you is a video for tonight. Now this is double speed, so it didn't fly this fast. But one of the things that we were asked to do was to fly the roof of D building with the drone. So it took 7 flights to practice it, but we think we've got a pretty good flight pattern for a video of the roof of the drone to show you the conditions. This was flown last week.
Who was piloting? You were piloting?
Yeah, that's me right there at the bottom corner.
Is that why it's going double speed?
No, it's double speed because it's a 2.5 minute flight, so it's only a minute and 15 seconds if I double speed.
Beautiful work, Brian.
Yes.
No beautiful work.
And then we have a second pattern where we fly it and take pictures. And Emily flies that one.
Okay, so final inspection, you're going to have a closer, you have to have closer resolution on the actual installation. How are you going to do the inspection of the actual final review?
So this is the resolution of the pictures. So as we go through the pictures, we fly over it, you see how it's got, and then you can zoom in on the pictures themselves.
And you keep the quality, or yeah, that's good.
And if the other thing we can do is, same flight I did, I gave you there's also one that looks like this, same flight, same camera, but this is the zoom lens. So you're going to see much more detail because it takes 3 videos at the same time.
Oh, that's great.
So this is the zoom lens. And then the third one it does at the same time. Come on. This is the thermal camera. So you can see the hot and cold spots in the roof. Probably because they're in the shade. But you can see the white and the dark on the roof. So, and then as it flies around, each time it gets to a waypoint, what I programmed in there, it takes a picture, so you have a static picture each time it turns before it turns. And so each flight, we have 2 different flights. One takes pictures, one is video and picture. The pictures is a grid across, it just goes back and forth across the roof. It takes 124 pictures. So sorry, 62 pictures in flight. And then the other one is the video. So we have the video flies around the building and the other one flies across.
Very good. Impressed. No mishaps with the drone then?
Nothing yet, not yet.
Okay.
We got pretty close though. A plane came over top of the building. I don't know how it didn't hit a tree. It was so low because the drone dropped because it got so close to the drone. But I don't know how it didn't hit a tree, how low it came over the building. So, I'm only 175 feet in the air on this flight. So.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Great.
I don't have anything else for tonight unless you guys have any questions for me.
I don't, does anybody here Jamie have a question? If you don't mind, just either shout it out, we know who you are, but you can shout from there so we can hear it.
Okay, just a couple quick things on Greystone. The trails are going to stay stone, not blacktop.
The current plan is to leave them as they are because they're in per plan and evaluate as we move forward.
Excellent. And did the township ever enter a contract with anyone to manage the restored serpentine habitat?
No.
Is that still sort of an issue that you're dealing with?
Our intention is to have our own parks team and supervision meet with an expert on, I don't know if it's a natural lands expert or somebody who knows about maintenance of serpentine barrens, and they will show the twice a year type of maintenance for dealing with invasives or etc.
So I would suggest you consider talking to the gentleman who prepared the plan.
We are.
His name is Scott Bush.
We are.
Scott.
Yeah, that's who's going to be. So we have it coordinated with the developer that our crew is going to go out twice this year, spring and fall, with his people. And I'm assuming the botanist he's talking to is Scott. He says my botanist. I'm waiting on a response from his botanist and his contractor. So,
thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 15, zoning officers announcements.
Good evening. The only item that I would like to discuss is the zoning hearing board application 4-2025 submitted on behalf of Zach and Jill Siskin for their property located at 821 Huber Place. As noted on their application, they're seeking variance relief from section 8413A8 in order to construct a front portico in the front yard of the property. As some more information, they are going before the zoning hearing board on March 31st, so not this coming Monday, but the following, 7 p.m. here at the Township Building. The zoning code requires a 40-foot setback from the public right-of-way. In this case, it would be 65 feet from the center line of Huber Place. The proposed portico is about 50 feet from the center line. It is going in the same footprint. I don't know if you can see it right here. They currently have a small front stoop, I would almost call it, a little concrete patio. They're just looking to enclose that and make that a front portico with a roof, which is why they have to go before the zoning hearing board. And they did, this application was before the Township's Planning Commission, and they voted unanimously to take no position on the application. So if anybody has any questions, I am more than happy to answer based off of the information provided.
So this doesn't require any land development application, correct? So, I mean, the board's position at the moment is if it does not require land development, that we're not going to weigh in. We're going to let the Planning Commission, the Zoning Hearing Board, do what they do very well and
Perfect.
go from there.
Other than that, I have nothing major to report.
Thank you, Sheldon. Any questions for our zoning officer? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 16, which is approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes of February the 4th and February the 18th. Does any of the board have any typo corrections or content corrections to suggest?
I just have one. On the February 4th minutes, page 5. Last paragraph, just change the word see reasonable care to seek reasonable care of the historic asset. Just add a K there. That's all.
Thank you, John. Okay, anyone else? All right, I will make a motion to approve the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes for February the 4th and February the 18th with the correction that Mr. Hellman noted. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Any public comment or questions? Very good, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 17 is ratification of the bills to be paid from the General Fund, Sewer Revenue Fund, the Waste and Recycling Fund, and the Capital Reserve Fund dated March the 4th, 2025. So the board had individually replied to Chris approving the bills to be paid back on March the 4th. So this evening we're looking to ratify the decision of the board. I presume you had enough board members approve, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, so I will make a motion to ratify the approval to pay the bills dated March the 4th. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Any questions or comments on the motion? Very good, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Okay, Okay, agenda item number 18 is the approval of the Treasurer's Report dated February 28th. And for the General Fund, the Sewer Revenue Fund, the Waste and Recycling Fund, and the Capital Reserve Fund, and the bills to be paid from these funds today. So I will make the motion to do that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ashley. Does the board have any comments or questions on the bills to be paid dated February the 18th? Okay, is there anyone attending who has any questions or comments on the bills to be paid? All right, we're ready to take the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. I will make the motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:46. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.